We've talked a lot about ways in which people and teams can be forward-looking, can participate at these different levels of your framework. How do you encourage people? How do you set up structures and incentives that will yield a team that is, really in this?
In terms of sort of expectation setting or incentives, I think it's really important to clarify that the nearest term objective is not to deliver efficiency. That won't happen right away. Instead, the nearest term objective is to rewire your brain. It's to change how you see things. It's to be able to abstract workflows into processes that could be automated. It's to develop a sense for what tools are out there. And so I think the more that managers can set the expectation with their teams, as you learn your way into this, you are going to make a bunch of stuff that doesn't work, that you won't use, that no one will see. And that is not wasted time. That is part of it. That is a necessary, healthy, and good part of it.
Welcome to Growth Talks, where we dive into the world of growth and marketing with today's top leaders. I'm Tyler Elliston, founder and CEO of Right Side Up, and while Christina takes a break, I'll be your host. Today, I'm excited to welcome Vanessa Schneider, head of marketing at Descript, the all-in-one AI editing platform that's transforming how creators and teams produce audio and video content. Vanessa brings over 15 years of marketing experience at some of the world's most innovative companies, including Airbnb and Eventbrite. She's here to share the strategies that help those brands scale and what lessons she's applying to the AI-first creative space today. Vanessa, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat together.
Awesome. Well, I must say that usually when your name comes up, it is in the context of Eventbrite people that I should not have missed when I was there because we didn't quite overlap.
It's true. It was such an amazing place to spend time, especially because for me, it was the first company I worked at when I moved from New York to San Francisco. It was the first tech company I worked at. And I was probably employee 90, something around there. And I remember having this very clear realization standing in the middle of the one room that we all worked in at the time, was everyone who's here is incredibly good at what they do. And it was such a exciting, energizing place. And we worked with people who were not only expert, but were really fun and silly and playful. And that was a wonderful welcome into the San Francisco tech scene for me.
Yeah, I feel like, I've told a lot of people that it's easy to create a fun culture that's not really driven and high performing. And it's, doable to create a high performing culture that is not very fun. But nailing both of them is quite hard. And similar to you, Eventbrite, I found Eventbrite to really nail it. They've done a lot of things right, but man, it was a great place to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's funny that you bring up this sort of tension between performance and culture. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of conversation about the 996. And, there's a contingent of AI people who want to post about how hard they hustle and grind. And then there's a contingent of people who want to sort of look down on that. And, my thought there, for what it's worth, is actually no culture, good or bad, comes tops down. It is the summation of the bottoms up predisposition and personality and mentality that every individual brings to a place. And what management's job is just to sort of understand the people they have and shape the environment so that it taps into whatever motivates them. And I'm perfectly willing to believe that there are companies full of people who want to grind, and that's really what motivates them. And that also there are places where people are really put off by that feeling of pressure and expectation, and actually they do their best work when they're given a bit of peace. No one size fits all.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said, I think that speaks to the incredible value of a recruiting function. Once sort of culture is established, to then recruit into the culture. And then also those early founders, the first 5 employees, the first 10 employees, even the first 90 or 100, those are really, the creators of that culture. And then teams are sort of the vanguards of it, and recruiting holds it.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a great start. I would love to hear more about your experience just with disruptor brands in general. Obviously, we've talked about Eventbrite, and they really disrupted the event space. And now at Descript, you're leading marketing for an AI platform that's redefining how teams produce content and manage their creative workflows. And obviously, you also come from Airbnb, which is a massive disruptive brand in hospitality. I'm wondering if, looking back, was there a common thread or market shift that opened the door for those disruptions that you now see with Descript?
Yeah. So the common thread that I think about in my career and that I think drew me to each of those places you mentioned is tapping into aspects of pride and identity. Like when someone has a passion or an expertise that they want to share with other people and they want to gather them, Eventbrite helps them do that. And when someone lives in a place that they are really proud of and they're creative and generous and they want to welcome people, Airbnb makes it possible for them to do that. And, at Descript, we're helping people deliver their perspective, their expertise, their voice in a way that they otherwise wouldn't know how to do by making video. And so what all these places have in common is this idea of augmentation or amplification or speed to help people do the thing they already know they want to do that makes them feel more self-actualized. And this all shapes how I think about talking about AI, because there's this really fraught conversation out there, right, about AI. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of trepidation about the way that AI, particularly in creative workflows, is going to change the way that people express themselves. And so, I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that Descript isn't putting creative professionals out of jobs or out of work opportunities, not today, not tomorrow. What I do think it's doing is enabling more people to make creative projects than they would have otherwise. And so it's that same gesture of, to the host who wants to welcome people to their seaside town, and Airbnb enables that. Similarly to the product marketer who has a great story they want to tell, but they actually don't know how to do it because they've never been trained in video editing tools. Suddenly now they can. And so what I want to be able to do from a marketing perspective is talk about the very human experience of being augmented, the very human experience of being assisted, and the absolute pleasure that comes from that. And so, I'm very interested in using marketing opportunities to talk about play and satisfaction, and using Descript is fun. Using Gamma is fun. Talking to ChatGPT is fun. We can talk about the ride. We can talk about the feeling of getting your event page up, the feeling of getting your listing page up, the feeling of getting your script together. And that's a vulnerable, exhilarating, weird ride. And that's all part of it. And so I think for me, I'm always looking for opportunities to talk about those processes, those journeys from the very human aspect, with technology being a supporting character.
Two things that you said kind of stuck out to me. One is, I think, when you talk about just amplifying what people, want to do and sort of their expression, I mean, it's a way of articulating a customer centricity that is critical to innovation. I mean, I guess I would pose the question, is it possible to have a disruptor brand that is not, fundamentally rooted in sort of a customer's desire, user's desire to express themselves, or as you said, self-actualize? I don't know.
Probably you could just adhere to the wants of capital and have a disruptor brand that just serves the top brass and the sources of investment, and probably get pretty far. But I think that is more about building a viable source of revenue than building a brand. And to your point, as marketers, the only way we succeed in being in relationship with our prospects and customers is if we understand them.
Yeah. I guess, perhaps jokingly, I might suggest that for some investors or some fintech companies, ROI is the self-actualization.
Yeah, totally.
That is their deepest desire and expression. It is just dollars.
Exactly.
The other thing that you mentioned is sort of expansion of the supply side of a marketplace. So, yes, it's about enabling people who are already creators, but also people are creative. And, just like Airbnb opened up an incredible supply side that they were not planning to open their homes. They were not thinking about this. It was a totally different well of supply. And I think there's some parallels to Eventbrite as well. But in this case, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's really keenly observed. Like what I would say is there is the sort of direct supply side acquisition, which is like, hey, you already have language for this thing you want to do. You already know what it is. That's like the bullseye of your like supply target, right? Those are the easy people to get. They already know what they want to do and you're just going to facilitate it. But then there are these concentric circles beyond that where there are people who have all the skills and attributes and appetites, but they have not before shaped those things into a neatly packaged articulation of the thing that you are enabling them to do. And so you have to help them get there. And this is also true for Descript for what it's worth. I tell people all the time, sort of jokingly, like, you already know how to make video, even though they don't think of themselves as someone who has this skill set because they have historically thought of it as a rarefied skill set, right? And so we as marketers have to say to them, okay, do you have this ingredient, that one? Oh, and this other thing? Look, those ingredients together make everything you need to host events, to welcome people and give them a great experience, to be creative and make projects that captivate people's attention. Like you have all the things you need. We're just going to help you shape it and get you where you're going.
That's awesome. Are there any use cases, or not use cases, but like ICPs or user profiles at Descript that, maybe wasn't part of the initial vision, but just when you put the tools out there and you start seeing how people use it, it's like, oh, we did not expect this person to use it in that way.
Yeah, this is the joy and hazard of a horizontal platform. And Descript is all in one in many, like through many lenses. Descript is all in one in the sense that you can go from creating your project, editing your project, and publishing it all in one. But we're also all in one in the sense that you can make a lot of different kinds of projects in Descript, whether it's a podcast, clips for social, long form horizontal video, you want avatars, you want generated media, like you can do all this in one place. And so to your point about ICP, what that means is you get a lot of different people coming to Descript for different use cases that they have in mind. What has been really satisfying for me as a marketing leader is when I first got here a year and a half ago, the market still understood Descript as a podcasting tool because originally when the company was first founded, it was for podcast editing. And so our earliest cohort of customers were all these like indie creator prosumer types who had podcasts. And over time, what we've been doing is building out the product so that it includes a lot of really rich video editing capabilities. And so what we have spent the past year and a half doing is re-educating the market so that they no longer see us as a podcasting tool, but they see us as a media tool for both audio and video. And that meant that our ICP expanded and grew to not only include these sort of indie creator types, but also a lot of people who are making video at work. So marketers, PMMs who want to do a demo video, who want to do a launch video for their campaign, social media managers who want to do clip cut downs for their company handles or their exec handles. We see sales and support folks using Descript to quickly grab a screen recording and make it easy for someone on the other end of a phone call to understand how their product works. L&D is huge for us. We see a lot of people who are tasked with educating large audiences. Normally, they're stuck doing that through slide decks, through one-pagers, through emails. That's a really difficult way to get your coworkers to pay attention to the latest policy update that they all need to know about. If you can make a video from your desk and get it out to all your coworkers, they're much more likely to pay attention.
I think that's one of the things that excites me most about Descript and other, as you reference them, like horizontal platforms, where it's really oriented around a functional capability versus like an industry or particular use case. And those companies often have these like, aha moments where they're like, oh my goodness, like what we've built is also applicable here and there. And the ICP, or excuse me, the TAM just keeps like getting bigger and bigger. And then you realize like, wow, this well actually goes really, really deep, which is really exciting, particularly, when you're in a marketing role.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's also hard
Yes.
Because part of what we have to do is have the discipline to pick a few. Sort of like the failure mode there is being everything to anyone is the same as being nothing. And when you have a horizontal platform, it is awfully tempting to feel like your story has to include every bit and piece. And you have to account for every potential customer. And that is a wonderful way to shoot yourself in the foot. And so as a marketing team, we have like very specific personas. And anytime we're putting a campaign together, we are clear about who we're speaking to at the sort of ostensible exclusion of everyone else, knowing that if you do a great job speaking to one segment, the halo effect will still be resonant with others.
Yeah. I mean, I think that comment that you make about speaking to different ICPs in different campaigns is a really salient point to double click on, because yes, a company might adopt multiple verticals to attack, but it multiplies the effort, maybe not like linearly, but not far from it. I mean, it's a totally different customer. The value props can be totally different, even if it's on the same, functional capabilities, which is can get quite complicated. And to your point, introduce a lot of risk of failure.
Yeah. And I think that one of the ways to get around that is to be besties with UXR. So one of the things that we have here at Descript, one of my favorite rituals at Descript is this Friday afternoon session called Insight Safari. And during Insight Safari, our head of UXR will share recordings of research sessions that they've done in the past week or so, and everyone can tune in, and we all eat our lunch while watching. And it is so powerful and grounding to hear real humans talk about how they use Descript in their own words, from their own perspective. And I think that keeps us from getting over our skis of like being too prosaic in the story we want to tell.
We talked a little bit about sort of product marketing, sort of going to market with different, to different ICPs with different motions. And obviously we've touched on research just a little bit. Your background, correct me if I'm wrong, is in product marketing, community, content. Bring it back to AI. How are you seeing AI reshape those disciplines?
Yeah, I basically came to Descript so I could be forced to learn about AI because I thought I wouldn't do it otherwise. And that has proved out to work quite nicely. So, the thing that I would say to all marketing leaders, irrespective of whether you're working on an AI-enabled product or not, is that this is here. It's not optional. So you do have to find your way into it, and you owe it to your team members to help them get there. I think that there are companies, there are teams where they are not staying sufficiently curious about this world. And I feel for those ICs, those team members, they're going to really be at a deficit the next time they go back out on the job market. So this is part of it now. It's not optional. So given that, how do we think about refactoring our mindset, our approach to the team? I think that, we all have to be more technical. And by that, I don't mean we all suddenly have to learn how to code. What I mean is we have to bring enough curiosity and patience and flexibility to the task of learning how AI can power our work. I'll offer a little framework that I recently shared with my team of marketers, because I'm trying to give them some handholds for how to rewire their brains. And so I propose these sort of 3 levels. The first level is the easiest to sort of try and experiment with, and scrape and synthesize, right? So you use AI like ChatGPT to pull in information from out on the internet so that you, a human, can review that information and use it to make a better piece of content, produce a better report or understanding of a competitor. So the AI helps you do that research, and then it brings it back to you and you can action on it, right? So that's level 1, easy. Level 2 is about automating workflows so that there are steps in a repeatable process that a human no longer has to touch. And this is a more complex lens for thinking about how to bring AI into your work, because it requires you to be able to sort of step back and understand the nature of your work in a more abstracted altitude. To make this tactical, it's like maybe there's a way to automate the process of populating the team lifecycle calendar so that whenever someone slacks a channel or posts in linear, it just gets into the same shared Notion database. That would be a way to alleviate some fussy operational work that now no one has to do, right? Level 3, the thing that I can't wait for AI to get good at, and it's harder, it's not as great at this, is this idea of building, maintaining, and querying repos. So, what I dream about is some automated way for my brand design team to get every asset they make into a repo so that my social media manager can pull an asset whenever they need one. They don't have to bother designers, right? And so for this kind of thing, it's like, whereas level 1, just talk to ChatGPT or Claude, it'll do your research for you. And level 2 is probably using something like Relay or Zapier or Lindy to chain a bunch of actions together. For level 3, like what I'm trying to do is use something like Replit to build a custom app that will do this work for me. And, everyone should mess around with these vibe coding tools. Even in a marketing function, I think it's very useful to play. It's not going to be something that you're going to use every day. It's not going to be your daily driver, but getting a sense for when is a good time to actually try to build your own bespoke solution versus using some of these off-the-shelf tools is really helpful in sort of understanding the places where you want to invest first and most with new AI-enabled solutions.
I'm sure it's tailored to specific situations and organizations, but are there any use cases that you feel like would be repeatable for like a product marketer, for example? Like, I think most product marketers that I talk to, they're using ChatGPT to like as a sparring partner or sounding board for, positioning or this like go-to-market strategy or, that kind of thing. Any particular use cases or suggestions for like the product marketer to kind of take it to that next level where you feel like it would probably be applicable across multiple organizations?
Yeah, there's a PMM on my team who did something amazing. So going back to what we were talking about a moment ago about our personas, our priority personas, he made a GPT for each of our priority personas. He loaded it up with context from UXR, from our internal human-generated research documentation, from AI-generated research, threw it all in there, and then gave the GPT different modes so that we could think about sort of like fast twitch messaging when our target customer isn't paying close attention, and then richer messaging when we have a more engaged and intentful ICP. And once he built these GPTs, now everyone on the team can use them. And so there's a woman who is doing demand gen. She works with my brand team to do the writing and creative. And then she runs it by the GPT to see if it will land with our target customer, and then gives us feedback based on the GPT so we could do a round of revision really quickly and with high confidence.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's so delightful. And so I see this one investment of making the persona GPT benefiting PMM when they think about their GTM strategies, creative because it helps them dial in their approach, paid because we're making sure that we feel really confident in the creative that we're flighting. So it has a large halo effect.
I'm curious, as you mentioned, creative, and looking at personas as an input to that. How do you think the creative process, like what parts of the creative process are about evolving the fastest, and where do you think human instincts are still key?
Yeah, I mean, generating stuff is getting ever better, ever faster. That doesn't mean that AI is going to make your final version of anything. I'm really clear-eyed about that. But is it going to help you ideate? Is it going to help you create artifacts that allow you to get early alignment with your stakeholders faster? Definitely. I have a designer on my team who she is really good at using something like Bolt to build these little machines that allow her to rapidly create patterns and motifs. So like if she wants to create this sort of moving wallpaper kind of pattern, she can use Bolt to make a little machine that will allow her to parameterize how fast it moves, what colors it uses, are the shapes round or square? And so she can like build this little thing and have it barf out a bunch of options that are all variations on a theme. So that's a really accelerating way for her to figure out what is her ultimate recommendation. So that's where AI is showing up. But the feel for our audience lives with us, like the texture and richness of the relationship that we want to be in with our prospects and customers, that lives with us. The persona GPT I mentioned a moment ago is not going to steward that relationship. That's for us. We are still the ones who have to be able to see how a campaign comes together and understand the feel that no amount of AI enabled workflow is going to capture.
Right. And accountability, I think, is like the human in the loop. There's always accountability. And ChatGPT or whatever tool or technology is not accountable. It's still a person.
And it lies and it's a dummy. And
Yeah.
don't ask your highly confident, sometimes idiotic coworker to do everything for you and not check its work.
Totally. Yeah. Just as an aside, I one point uploaded a 200-page legal document, and I was trying to find, some language in that legal document. And so I uploaded it and I was like, tell me where it addresses this topic. And it was like page 37, paragraph 2. And I was like, great, and I was like, this was amazing. And I went and talked to a couple of people and I referenced what the agreement said. And then I was like, I just need to double check that. And I went back and lo and behold, on that page in that paragraph was no mention of this topic. And so I went back and I was like, that's incorrect. Please, please. And I kid you not, we went through like 8 iterations. And each time it actually got more confident, right? Each time it was like, now I am sure. Like, I'm so sorry, but now I am sure. And it was very educational for me. And I'm sure there were problems with how I was prompting it. Like, I'm sure there was user error, abounding there. But yeah, it was fascinating.
Totally. One trick that I learned that really helps me when I end up in one of those cul-de-sacs is asking it, instead to keep trying, asking it like, give me 3 possible reasons why you're getting this wrong.
Yes.
Which is kind of what you would do with a junior team member. And so weirdly, that semi-Socratic approach can help your AI coworker get its head right.
Well, I'd love to come back to video specifically. Obviously, you're in a really unique spot to see how AI is impacting video specifically. And I can say, as a marketer that works across, hundreds of different businesses, we certainly see the importance of video in so many different aspects of marketing. So I'm curious just to get your thoughts on how AI is specifically impacting teams' approaches to video and storytelling.
Yeah. Okay. So let's set the table, because AI in video is actually many things, right? It can be AI generated avatars. So that's where you create a character and it is animated by AI to deliver a script with its mouth moving. There are AI voices, including translation and dubbing in AI voices. So let's say you have a product release video and you want to be able to make sure that your Spanish speaking customer community also gets the latest update. You can have an AI voice deliver that in native sounding Spanish. AI can also do interesting things with lip syncing and regenerating video. So let's say you made a product demo video and you flubbed a word. You can actually use AI to use your voice clone to change the word, and then it will actually do a little mask over the mouth part of your face and change your lip movement to match the corrected VO that AI generated for you. There's also obviously generative video, right? The stuff that we see everyone talking about with Sora, with Facebook's Vibes app. There are a lot of really exciting model providers who are posting tons of sort of state-of-the-art generative video examples on social media. You could really go down the rabbit hole here. And then there's the more holistic AI video creation. Like, we have a feature inside Descript where you can go from a prompt where you say, I want to make a video about being on podcasts while it's raining bananas outside, and it will make the whole video for you. It will write the script, it will cut scenes, it will apply layouts, it will generate custom media assets to place in those layouts. It can give you an avatar to deliver the script with an AI voice to match. So in that respect, AI can also start with nothing and still make an entire video project for you.
Is it possible that this, you could not be real? Could I be having this conversation with an avatar? Could we have done all of this?
So I'll ask it back to you. Do you feel like you can tell when you're looking at something that's AI generated?
Well, yes, I think I can, but it's sort of one of those but if I can't, then I don't, and I still think I can, Yeah.
Yeah. Every once in a while, the New York Times has one of these funny interactive features where it's tell us which of these 10 videos or 10 images are made with AI, and you do a little quiz. I am very curious to know, particularly in a world where now everyone is going to have the Facebook Vibes app or the OpenAI Sora app. They're setting us up to have this huge constituency of people just looking at endless feeds of entirely synthetic video. And I don't know if that's going to help people better detect when something is AI generated, or it's going to so acclimate people to the quirks of generated video that they are no longer sensitive to them. I could honestly see it going either way. I'm sure there are a lot of PhDs in a room somewhere figuring this out. Today, I think that with avatars specifically, even very lifelike ones are still pretty clockable. And we talk a lot internally about how there are pretty different psychographics in the customers who want a very realistic avatar versus a more stylized one. And we're not here to judge. Like, we want to make it easy for you to make the project you want to make. Godspeed. We offer both. We make it very easy from our stock avatar gallery to either select a very realistic looking avatar or a talking fire hydrant, whatever you want. We also have the ability to generate a custom avatar either from an image or from a prompt. So if you wanted to use a photograph of a real person and have that be the input to generate an avatar, then what you would get is an avatar that looks like a real person.
Do you have an opinion on, from an ethics or policy standpoint on like disclosure obligations? Like, for example, like with Facebook ads, like, do you have an opinion on disclosure that like, hey, this quote unquote user generated content is not actually a user, or like it's real feedback, but it's not, it's not actually this person? It's okay if not. I'm just curious if you have a POV on that.
Maybe this is like the Airbnb in me, but like my perspective in terms of the role Descript has to play here is that we should be as agnostic as possible in bringing together all the best models and all the best technologies so that people can use them. But many of these model companies do have their own like red lines. And so sometimes you'll be inside Descript, you'll try to generate an image or a video or an avatar and you'll get an error. And it's because the model provider doesn't want you to make a deep fake or make something that doesn't meet their terms. In terms of like specifically what you're talking about of like synthetic influencers in ads, I don't know, man. I have a 5-year-old daughter. It is crazy for me to think about the internet she's going to grow up into. And I think I'll sort of steer clear of the parenting connotations of all that. But what I will say as a marketer is I am incredibly bullish on video that blends recorded media and generated media for this reason. I think that audiences and customers are going to become really allergic to this endless feed of synthetic stuff, right? There's all this commentary out there about slop. I think customers and prospects are going to be rightly suspicious of brands even more than they are now, because it's just going to get increasingly easy for people to lie in a way that looks credible. And that's why at Descript, I think we're in a really strong position, because unlike most of these other video editing tools, what we do is make it really easy for you to bring recorded media and generated media together in the same project. And I think that's the ticket, because if a brand or a creator or a influencer wants to earn trust and show up authentically, it doesn't mean they have to completely forego generated media as augmentation, as decoration, as a way to enrich the story they're telling. But hearing from them is going to be the thing that I think makes people lean in. You mentioned Airbnb. Let's pivot for just a few minutes and talk about your experience at Airbnb. Obviously, it's an iconic brand, and you were there at an integral time. So in 2019, you became Airbnb's host community director. That was a time of massive growth with new tech and big marketing pushes and launches like Experiences. I still remember the launch of Experiences and the campaign. I mean,
Anyways, what did that time teach you about building trust and keeping people loyal when things are moving so fast?
Yeah, it's a very incisive question because around the time of the launch of experiences, the community concern was that homes hosts, who were the core of the business, were going to feel left out or left behind. And what I spent so much of my time at Airbnb doing was being this two-way bridge between the business and the hosts. And that meant being in very close contact with host sentiment, host business concerns, which is not like a soft thing. It's not like people have feelings. It's like, no, let's actually understand what's happening to their revenue. But then also being very pragmatic and real about the company's ambitions and goals and finding authentic ways to represent each to the other. And so that's about listening and empathy and blending qual and quant. That's also about being a great communicator. That's about picking your battles and knowing when to really make a fuss and try to get people to change their mind about an initiative that they're really excited about, but also when to, be bold with the hosts and say, look, this is it. This is it. It's not going to change. And I think that what Airbnb truly does better than any company I can think of is listen to its host community because it genuinely wants to take their experience into account. It doesn't mean that the hosts always get what they want, far from it, but it does mean that decision makers are making decisions with more complete information. And that allows the company, I think, to get it right more than they get it wrong and to move forward confidently.
You said Airbnb is sort of best in class at listening to customers. I'm curious how the Superhost program came about and how it became a success. I will tell you, as a consumer, I love it because I look for superhosts still, right? I'm like, okay, they're going to take care of us. They have something to lose if we're unhappy, like blah, 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 blah. Like, how did that, like what insight led to the Superhost program?
Yeah. What's so great about the Superhost program is that it perfectly aligns host motivations and guest motivations for exactly the reason you say, right? So because it is tied to a merchandising piece, it's this badge that guests can see when they're making a booking decision in the marketplace. It has real business value. There's something recursive about that. The people who earn Superhost status are already performing well. They're already getting good ratings. Of course, they're going to show up well in the marketplace. And then with the badge, they're going to get even more bookings. On the host side, going back to what we talked about earlier in our conversation, this is about identity and pride. Hosts wanted to feel recognized by Airbnb. Hosting is hard work. And what's so counterintuitive about it is that even though you're hosting, you're bringing all these people into your home, it's actually quite lonely because you're not there to, become best friends with your guests. Very often guests don't really want that. They want some privacy. And so hosting can feel very lonely. That's one of the reasons why the host community is so potent, because hosts can find one another and inspire one another and teach one another and commiserate and talk about how annoying it is to, have to go to Costco every month, whatever. And so a host recognition program was something that really tapped into this feeling of like, I am doing all of this and kind of like no one sees it. No one knows what's going on behind the scenes to make this experience for my guests so seamless. And then we also were able to give Superhosts certain benefits, certain types of early access. And I think, the Superhost program is quite large, but there are other host community programs at Airbnb for even smaller, more rarefied groups. And those folks get even more insider access and get more face time with the Airbnb leadership. And I think one of the things that is so special about those programs is that it really shows this genuine desire on both sides to collectively build the success of that company. And that mutual regard is so important when, at the end of the day, Airbnb's supply is not its own. Like, you have to be in it together with the hosts. Otherwise, what are you selling?
And to that point, what leads to churn on the host side, or like what drives sentiment for them other than, we've talked about recognition. I assume, the money of it, whether they're like an owner host or a property management host, but like what else drives sentiment and churn on that side?
Yeah, it's kind of a tale of two cities. So let's say you're a host who's really doing well. The thing that's going to make you churn is fatigue. You're getting lots of bookings, you're making lots of money. It's great, but you have a turnover every 3 days and it's exhausting. And it's a lot of messaging back and forth. And it's a lot of, oh, the plans changed and now I have to think on my feet and rearrange my week and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like being a victim of your own success. And then on the other side, there's churn because people don't reach their earnings goals. And a lot of people who come to hosting don't have professional experience that would teach them how to plan a budget or anticipate how much they're going to earn over the first 30, 60, 90 days. Airbnb needs to be a platform that can work for people who don't have deep business acumen. But at the same time, it means that you run this risk of having hosts come onto the platform expecting immediate revenue and having those expectations not met.
Are property management companies, was that industry like born or massively expanded like based on Airbnb? Like I would imagine that when Airbnb was in its infancy, most hosts were like the owners versus professionally managed. Is that true? But I also imagine that it's shifted significantly over time. Is that true?
I think property management as an industry existed well before Airbnb became mass market. And some amount of property management companies also use Airbnb to monetize vacant inventory in their portfolio, which is like a win-win all around. What has emerged that's new is this phenomenon of these professional co-hosts. Usually these are people who started as individual home hosts, like they shared their home, but then they got really good at it and they sort of caught the bug. And so it was like, oh, well, there's a woman 2 blocks over who also lists her place. And she said that she needs some help. So maybe I'm going to actually manage her listing for her and we'll split the profit, and on and on. And so increasingly what I observed over time were these people who were building full-time businesses for themselves, helping fellow hosts manage their listings.
That makes a ton of sense. Awesome. Thank you for sharing your insights there. We're over halfway through, but I want to do what we call an A/B test, where I'm gonna throw out some like either ors that are like often like unfair either ors, but get your like immediate reaction, just to make it a little lighthearted, and then we'll wrap up with one more topic. So okay. So on a work related front, Meta or Google, which do you set up first?
Google.
Brand or performance marketing?
Performance.
UGC or professionally produced content?
UGC.
TikTok or Instagram video?
Instagram.
Bootstrap or venture capital?
Ooh, depends.
Like they're incredibly unfair. Okay, on the personal side, morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Physical book or audiobook?
Physical book.
Board games or video games?
Board games.
Take a photo or shoot a video? Fair enough.
You're not asking me that question.
Time travel to the past or to the future?
Future.
And lastly, favorite actor to spend a day with, or an actor or historical figure?
He's not an actor, but my answer is Ira Glass. Major swoon. I mean, if I could just listen to him talk about things that he finds interesting over lunch, that would be a dream.
That's awesome. Fantastic. So the last topic I want to cover is about the future of marketing orgs. And I know we've already taken up a lot of your time, so we can try to move through it relatively quickly. But AI is changing so much, right? The tools we use, but also how marketing teams are built, structured, and led. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Maybe particular to Descript, or just where you think the future is going that will apply to everybody. So I guess with that, yeah. Any initial thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think marketing teams are going to benefit from having a small number of technically minded AI native generalists who are builders. And that means that like not every single marketer is going to need to be able to do the most elaborate work of like building automated workflows and using the latest AI tools. But you want a couple people who are just swimming in the soup. And those are the people who are going to do a lot of the automation and workflow building that then everyone else on the team should be able to customize for their own needs. So they're building things that their teammates are going to use and adapt, and making sure that their teammates know how. So that's thing one, that sort of builder. The The other thing is that, and this is very cliche, like in the AI conversation, but I also think that marketing teams will continue to need to have people with taste. AI is going to make it easier to produce a whole lot of stuff, right? A lot. Marketing teams are going to need people who know how to choose among options and who have a good eye and who know how to be decisive. And I think that's something that has always been important, particularly with creative work, and will become increasingly so.
I'm curious about that builder role that you're describing. In your imagination, is that somebody who has a functional responsibility and they also happen to have this technical capability, like it's a marketing ops person that is particularly technical? Or do you imagine a unique, different role that did not exist in an org design 5 years ago that will be in every org design in 5 years?
My guess is that it's going to be a unique role, because I think the amount of expertise in all the latest tools and capabilities is only going to balloon. And I don't think it's fair to ask your PMM off the side of their desk to also be drinking from the AI hype cycle fire hose. Bonus points if they are, but the risk there is that you're basically like trading off systems and throughput. So I think in the future, it's likely to be a dedicated role.
I'm going to give you an amazing opportunity here to coin the name of that role. And when this gets published, we'll point back to it when everybody adopts it. We'll be like, Vanessa was the first person to call this role what?
Ooh. I mean, the thing is that I think it's MarOps. Like, I think it's just like the marketing operations stack is going to look really different. The marketing operations responsibility is going to look really different. We can be cute and call it like a vibe marketer or whatever, but I actually think that the vibe that we are appending to everything, vibe editing, vibe coding, vibe thising, vibe that, that's what the other marketers will do based on the tools and workflows that this MarOps person puts into place. So what they make possible is for all the fellow marketers to go into these tools with a more ambiguous or less defined prompt or task and use AI to get to something that they feel really great about.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, maybe it's not a part-time role per se, but maybe we already do have the packaging right and sort of a marketing ops label. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. What about like brand versus performance? There's historically been this, like they were 15 years ago, like fundamentally different orgs within the marketing team, and they've kind of become more integrated, I think, more recently. How do you see that divide playing out?
So my general bias is that I'm really allergic to lines like this, but not only within marketing. I also see marketing and product this way, right? Like, show me the marketing campaign that works well without a deep understanding of what EPD is doing. It's not possible. I don't think it's possible. I think that brand marketing and performance marketing will continue to have distinct tool stacks. I think that performance marketer motivation is distinct in certain regards because they love to put points on the board and to understand the mechanical things. And that will continue to need to be a skill set in a marketing organization. Brand marketers are more comfortable with ambiguity, but struggle to characterize their impact. What I love about what's happening with my team right now at Descript is that we are shifting a lot of the ad creative development from outside to inside. And the benefit isn't only that the campaigns perform better, which of course they do, but it means that the people on the brand side learn more about like demand gen and how the top of the funnel is doing. And the performance marketer understands our story and value prop better than they did before because they have to brief in the creative team in a much more dynamic way. So that raises all ships.
Last question for you. We've talked a lot about ways in which people and teams can be forward-looking, can participate at these different levels of your framework, for example. I'm wondering what advice you would give to managers or CEOs, business leaders. Like, how do you, I guess the dramatic way to say it would be like to future-proof your team, but maybe less dramatically, like, how do you encourage people? How do you set up structures and incentives that will yield a team that is, really in this?
Yeah. Okay. So step one is that you, as the leader, actually have to feel confident leading this transformation. If you don't have enough of a personal foundation, they will smell it and it won't work. And you won't know where to push and where to be more permissive. And so I did something several months ago that I want all of your listeners to do, which is I took an AI vacation. And that wasn't a vacation from AI, that was a vacation to AI, where I literally blocked out a week on my calendar. I told everyone I was unavailable, I was busy. And I made a dedicated project in ChatGPT where I loaded it like strategy docs and roadmap plans and lots of context about what we're trying to achieve. And then the project instructions that I gave it told it that it was going to be my AI co-pilot and coach. And together, what we did over the course of my week-long AI vacation is we mapped out products we wanted to try, projects we wanted to try to build. We talked about how to abstract the specific examples I was hacking away at into principles. Every day, I had this co-pilot reflect back to me what I did well and what I could do better tomorrow. I had it produce summaries of what we worked on every day so that I could post those on Slack and bring the team along. La, 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 la. I came out of this week feeling like, okay, now I have a perspective. Now I can confidently sense when a project or a workflow lends itself to AI augmentation, when it doesn't. So that was critical and a gift that keeps on giving. Can't recommend it highly enough. So that's step one, take your AI vacation. Now you're ready to sort of bring your team along with you. And hopefully they know about your AI vacation. Hopefully they saw all the dispatches from your AI vacation so they see you walking the walk. They see you prioritizing the curiosity required to rewire your brain. Okay, so now when you're shifting and thinking about how to bring the team along, I think it's really important to remember that this is not religion. This is not a purity test. This is not about like being in or out. There's so much in this conversation that is like fanciful. You have to declaw everything out there that makes it feel like an in crowd, that makes it feel like you're being left behind. You have to take all of that out and make it joyful and make it something that aligns to what you already know motivates and engages your team. And one of the hardest parts of this process will be finding ways to make transformation collective. And so that can come through habits and rituals. Are we having dedicated team meetings where we're talking about this stuff? Are we posting our wins in public places? Are we sharing what we learned? Are we sharing the tools we build so that everyone can try it out and be inspired? It is certainly possible to like go put yourself in a closet somewhere and build a bunch of stuff and vibe code a bunch of stuff and wire up a bunch of relay workflows, and no one will ever know. So you have to draw it out of the group and make it collaborative and collective. And then as in terms of sort of expectation setting or incentives, I think it's really important to clarify that the nearest term objective is not to deliver efficiency. That won't happen right away. Instead, the nearest term objective is to rewire your brain. It's to change how you see things. It's to be able to abstract workflows into processes that could be automated. It's to develop a sense for what tools are out there. Which are the tools you like? Develop a preference. That's a great way to put some skin in the game. Which is your favorite, this or that, right? And so I think like the more that managers can set the expectation with their teams, like as you learn your way into this, you are going to make a bunch of stuff that doesn't work, that you won't use, that no one will see. And that is not wasted time. That is part of it. That is a necessary, healthy, and good part of it.
Yeah, it's part of the training. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. When you were considering this AI vacation before you did it and you were sort of forming your expectations for it, were you skeptical? Were you like absolutely confident this is going to, I'm going to feel so great? Like, just can you talk about any gap between like where did you start in expectations and then like what was the gap between the reality at the end?
I think that the before and after is going from theoretical to applied. I was already sort of aware of a lot of the conversation. We talk a lot about it at Descript. I'm already reading like the tweets and the blog posts and the newsletters. And so I felt aware, but I had not yet had the opportunity to devote so much focus to applying the conversation to my day to day. And that was really what changed my brain.
Yeah. I think your last point about, is really about rewiring the brain. It's training. It's not for efficiency. I think that is a really good point because I think a lot of people, myself included, are sometimes afraid to spend time on it because it's like, man, if this isn't productive, it's a waste of time. And to release yourself from that expectation, I think that's an incredible motivator to then take that step.
Yeah, absolutely. I have this little phrase in my head. I've never said it out loud, but the thing I think about is gunked up with reveries. Like my drives and all these tools are full of nonsense, and that's part of it. Every I want to try this. I wonder if I could do that. What does it look like? All these reveries are just accumulating. That's okay. That's actually how you get a feel for it.
Awesome. Vanessa, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. This has been such a good learning experience. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Growth Talks. We hope you found our discussion insightful and fun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more valuable content. And if you're excited and ready to start up-leveling your growth strategies and execution, Right Side Up has you covered. Right Side Up is a leading growth marketing agency that has partnered with over 1,000 companies of all stages and sizes to help them meet and exceed their growth goals. With expertise across all growth marketing functions, we can help you evaluate product market fit, develop customer acquisition strategies, navigate executional challenges and staffing gaps, and make pivotal decisions with confidence. And whether you need one individual or a custom-built, full-service team, we'll find you the right A+ talent. Visit us at rightsideup.com to see how we can help you and your company grow.